Okay, to access the Geographic Weight Breaks report, you click on your eBay tab in your VIP console, scroll down to Geographic Weight Breaks, and just before we get into the how to actually use the report, I'd just like to explain some of the benefits. So we talk about this a little bit in the Shipping Smarter book that we released about a year ago, and chapter 4 explains add-ons and extra costs and surcharges from the carriers. So just actually accessing this report regularly and digesting and analysing it is really going to help make sure that you are charging the correct prices on your eBay listings. Particularly because carriers quite regularly can change zones, towns that fall within zones, or they may increase their surcharge for a length, or for dangerous goods, or for fuel levy, or whatever it might be. So it's just a great idea just to use this report every few months throughout the year and just analyse the different weight breaks and make sure that you are charging the right pricing across Australia on your eBay listings. Now, the categories in the report are 0 to 1 kilo, 1 to 3, 3 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 25, and so on, as you can see along this top row. Now, these the weights here are actually charge weights. Now, just so everyone's clear on what that means, I've just done a little quick example here. So carriers charge either on the greater of the dead weight or the cubic weight of the goods that are being sent. Now, as the top row here says, most Australian road express carriers use a conversion factor of 250 kilos per cubic metre. Now, rather than going into the details exactly what that means, I've just given you a quick formula of how this works. So in this product, it weighs 20 kilos in dead weight and its size is 40, 50, 60 centimetres. Now, the cubic conversion formula, the way that the carriers work this out is they multiply the length by the width by the height by 250, which is that 250 kilos per cubic metre. And as an example here, if you multiply that in meterage, so 40 centimetres becomes 0.4 and so on, 0.5 times 0.6 by 250, you get 30 kilos as a cubic weight. So that's based on the dimensions and cubic volume of that product. Now, as it says here, as the 30 kilograms cubic weight is greater than the actual 20 kilos dead weight, the carrier will charge you on 30 kilos for this product. So just so you're aware, that's how we work on these figures here. These weights are based on charge weight. Just so you understand, it's not just the dead weight, but also the greater of dead weight or cubic weight when you use SmartSend. Okay, so now to use the report, firstly you can filter by, as it says here, it defaults to the current month, or you can previous month, current year, and custom ranges. So you can go back to whatever period of time you like to look for this report. So let's just do current year for this one. Now, as you can see on screen here, it breaks it down into state, and also for the metro areas of the major states, it breaks it down into, for example, Sydney Metro, New South Wales, the rest of New South Wales, Brisbane Metro, the rest of Queensland, Adelaide Metro, and so on. So that's great, which I'll explain in a second on your eBay rates table and how to add those figures to the rates tables. And as you can see here, it breaks it down. So for example, if your product is between 0 and 1 kilo in charge weight, in the current year, you've sent one booking to to the ACT for $8.44, and the average value was $8.44, obviously. So similar here, four items sent during this period to the Sydney metro area for $44.35, and the average is $11.09. So if you scroll right down, it actually totals those figures up. An easy way to look at this is actually exporting it. So if we export this report, okay, this is the spreadsheet we've exported. Now, there's two ways to take advantage of this spreadsheet when you're updating your eBay rates table postage in your listings. Now, the very simplest way is to, first of all, find the category that your product is in. So, for example, if your product has a charge weight between 25 and 50 kilos, you're looking at this section here. And if you go to the very bottom to the average figure, you'll see $53.30 is the average price across Australia for that product during that search period that you've looked at. So feasibly, you could go onto eBay, update your listing, and say, postage is $53.30 across Australia. Now that's a very simple way of doing it, and it would work in most cases. Obviously, you need to be aware that, and I'm sure you already know if you've been selling on eBay for a while, when someone sends something to a remote area or a country area, particularly when the product is heavy or large, the price skyrockets. So instead of paying $53.30 as an average, it might be $150 to ship it to WA country, for example. But overall, that, based on your shipments and your history and through shipping through SmartSend, you should be paying $53.30. So on average, it should be a fairly good figure to use when using this option. The other option, which is probably a better way of doing it, is again finding the category that your product is in, and let's say, for example, we're looking at Victoria, this category here, Melbourne and Victoria. So the average price to ship in this category is $47.30 to Melbourne Metro and $65.90 to Victorian Country. So now if we bring up the eBay rates table and use so we're using the per item view rates table, by the way, not the weight view. The weight view is based on basic and kilo, which we're not using for this report. So the item view is what you would use when updating. So if we use the standard section here, which is the road service, scroll down to Victoria. So in the Melbourne section here, you would then enter $47.30 as that Melbourne Metro figure. Now, couriers don't ship to PO boxes, so again, you can't use that value there. The Melbourne Fringe and Greater Melbourne, I would use the Victoria rate for that, which was the $65.90 figure there, because again, the couriers' zones and postcodes are quite different and range greatly compared to Australia Post, which eBay uses for their zones. So for Greater Melbourne and Melbourne Fringe, I would use the $65.90. So I'd put that in there, and and then again for all of the rest of Victoria, that would all be $65.90 as well. So that's sort of that's a better way of doing it. That way you are, again, this is not 100% bulletproof because the courier zones and towns are quite different to Australia Post, but in high 90% range, this is going to be a very good way of making sure you don't lose money, particularly for those rural and country areas where, as you know, you quite often can lose serious money if you underestimate the cost of postage in your listings to those areas. So similarly, if you're doing this Sydney and New South Wales for that same category, you'd be using $30.96 for Sydney Metro and $52.33 for the rest of New South Wales. So in that example, this one here, Sydney, is $30.96. What's the default figure there? So Central Coast would be New South Wales figure. Sydney Fringe would be New South Wales figure. That figure's not available because that's for Australia Post. Sydney West and Wollongong would also be the New South Wales figure. And obviously the rest of these areas here, apart from the PO Box one here, they're all the $52.33 figure. So that's how you would update your eBay rate table to make sure that you're not going to lose money on shipping because you're using your historical data to make sure that your figures are correct and your eBay listings are updated regularly and correctly. And just finally, if you're not currently a SmartSend VIP customer, you obviously won't have the historical data to use for this report. So if you sign up as a VIP, just contact us and ask for a historical report that we can provide, which has default data from our current customer base. So we just need to find out where you're located, your pickup address, and then we can provide a report which is very good to use, I suppose, to get started for the first few weeks. And then once, obviously, you have some trading history over the first month or 2 or 3, you can then start using this report to actually find out the actual average figures for your products.